Deboulet, video 14, August 28th, 2022. The second part of what happens when a child can't read. So this second part to me is as important as the first part. It might even be more important over time. As the student who can't read, doesn't learn how to read, exits school, and then has to live a life of not knowing. So I had thought a lot this week about how I could present this personal side, from my experiences that I see from teachers who I am in contact with who see the same thing, like how to really give you the flavor, really give you impetus to want to change this system with me because it's heartbreaking. And I thought about different ways. And this morning, as I was in church, it was right there. The message came right to me. So, what I'm about to present was actually presented to me from a different angle this morning, but it's spot on to what I want to say to you. So, first, I've taught so many grades, everything but grade one, I believe. The little kids come to school bright eyed. Up until very recently, I have never met a student who didn't want to succeed. I never met one who had already succumbed to failure and lived in that failure. Young kids have that light, that spark. They want the approval, they want the recognition, they want to belong, they want to fit. And when they get it, whatever it was they taught, when they get that thing, you can see the light in their eye, and there's nothing more rewarding than that. Over time, what are some of the messages that erode, get rid of that light? What are some of the messages that kids learn that grow weeds from lessons that they have learned, that they have internalized, that have become now part of their operating system? If a child doesn't know how to read, they know that they don't know how to read. They might squeak through first grade, second grade, third grade. They're starting to become aware that they need to be more on their own. They can't fake it. They can't try to get an answer from someone else. So fast forward to an eighth grader, a ninth grader, a seventh grader, a sixth grader who is in class and knows that they can't read and they can't write. What are the messages, the signals that are going on in their head? One, I am insignificant. Nobody has bothered to stop the clock here and teach me how to read. Two, I don't matter. Three, I'm not worthy because I'm stupid. And if I'm unable to learn, then I'm not equal. I'm not prepared. I don't even know where to begin. So those feelings, those thoughts are what I've seen in my classrooms, other teachers I've seen in other classrooms. I have taught in after school programs as well as taught during the day. I have homeschooled many kids. And the older the child, the bigger the cup full of despair. The messages that we send to our kids are lifelong. I'm sure you can probably recall something that happened to you in a specific grade or the way in which you were bullied, but I don't think anything really cuts to the heart of who we are as not being able to read and write and trying to keep that secret as time goes on because you feel shame. Teachers cannot teach an unteachable kid. Kids who are thinking those thoughts and truly believe that they are less than are not trusting you, and they're not going to trust you. I think of what shot through my head this morning was that I thought of kids with disabilities. I've taught special ed for many years, and all the IEPs when they're written that say tests read. Sometimes they're put on there because a kid has a very specific disability and that child will not be able to read. But that number is so minute. Yet the amount of IEPs that say tests read, in my opinion, are signaling to those kids, you don't have to try. You don't have to be prepared because you know what? The district has decided right now, this committee of people here have decided that you're not ever going to be able to read. What a thing to indirectly tell a kid. If a child is unable to read in grade 4 and that has to go in an IEP, the question the parent needs to be asking is, whoa, and who's teaching him how to read this year? So that that comes off of the IEP next year. You know, the kids who believe this, a lot of them, they present in different ways. And you could, the more experience you have as a teacher, the more you can pick it out in a shorter period of time. It's the student who is acting up, the student who will do anything to disrupt the class so that the reality of them being unable to read and write remains hidden because that means less than. So anything to get thrown out of class, anything to change the direction of the class, it's about power, it's about control. That I've seen. I've seen the kids who sleep out cold, sleep, or pretend that they are asleep because they know that you can't really throw them out if they're asleep because they're not being disruptive. You can write them up later, but they can get through by pretending to be asleep. Or the kids who have those hidden earpods, have their hoodies up because they're listening to music or something else because you are, as a teacher, are so tuned out. You know, in essence, what I try to tell a kid without telling a kid is that you need to replace what you think you know with what I can teach you. And that distance from where they are to where they trust you sometimes is so wide that there's no way a teacher can get to it. We teach, secondary 42-minute periods. Kids come in late because there's really no consequence for that. By the time you take attendance, retake attendance, have to write the late slips. Somebody acted up, they needed to be removed. You have to put in the first form. You maybe are teaching 25 minutes that period a day. That's it. So if you are blessed enough to be able to have kids like this who get to the point where they see the value in being teachable, then the next hurdle that I've seen is that is the student just listening or is the student learning? Because there's a huge difference here. Kids sometimes will listen, but will not learn. And to learn requires a doing, requires an action. There needs to be proof of a change. The unteachable traits that I've seen, and I jotted them down. When kids blame others, they look for the faults of others, everybody else that's in the class, and will not focus on their own. They're offendable. They're easily riled up. They take offense, even if something is not directed at them. That's how they take it. If their errors are brought to light, constructive criticism in the most loving ways, they are offended. They resist that transformation. That transformation is what has to happen in order to see the proof of the change. They have to go from being unwilling, unteachable, to being teachable, and then doing the work, putting in the work, which again, there may have been years of them not doing that because we've been pretending. They work with people, usually, I find, pretty well in groups until the group challenges them, challenges their truth, and then it's not okay. They resist any change that requires change within themselves. So that's my set of observations and my years of experience. The pandemic certainly has made this horrible, more horrible than ever. If a child was in a deficit situation, reading well below grade level, writing well below grade level, And I keep putting up the example of can't multiply 4 times 1 even with sticks and you're 15 years old. And then the pandemic hits and you were out for a year and a half. You didn't even log on, or you logged on and then went and did DoorDash and came back. If you were unable to do that for that period of time, you've lost all that year, all those years, those months of teaching. And now you come back to a real classroom. This is what we've seen. So I can only help so far. Teachers can only help so far with this. Parents, this is where you come in. I've said before on other tapes, there has to be a set of boundaries, a set of procedures that has to be employed so that the value of the education is taught to the student, that they want to be teachable, that they're willing to put in this work, and that you support them in their efforts. Take those electronic devices away. There's times in my life when I've worked 4 jobs at the same time, and I'm a survivor of a stroke and had kids and was a single parent and had to do what I had to do, for my kids. I know it's hard. I get it. I totally get it. But the kids are our greatest asset, and working together with that teacher for suggestions and ideas can make all the difference in the world. I'm retired, but I'm not willing to just let this continue. We've got this district's got to do better. Um, I don't want to see this anymore. I want to see kids be happy. I want to see kids be empowered in appropriate ways so that they don't leave this school by miracle or by, I won't say crook, whatever way to get graduated, to only be arrested for having a gun or living a life of crime, or there's so many other things that can happen. It's time. Just please take heed. We can do this. We can do this.